What makes the difference between somebody who succeeds at creating generational wealth and financial freedom through investing in real estate versus somebody who gives up and ultimately quits real estate for good? Well, that's exactly what we're going to go through in this video. We are going to go over the four most common reasons that people fail in real estate investing and how you can avoid them. Reason number one is never getting started in the first place. A lot of people get stuck in analysis paralysis. I get it. There's a ton of information out there on real estate investing, and it's hard to know what's actually fact or false. And so I spent a lot of time stuck in this limbo phase. I had enough money for the down payment on my first property, but I spent at least 4 months hemming and hawing and really kind of just being in this state of fear of getting started. And what actually got me out of it was my dad ended up challenging me. He said, "You're not really actually taking any action steps to getting your very first rental. It doesn't look like you're truly motivated or you're truly driven to make this dream happen for yourself." And that's when it hit me, and I was like, wow, okay, I really do have to just get started, take action, and just figure it out along the way, because you don't always know every single step going forward. It's only when you look backwards that everything comes together, right? That's the famous quote from Steve Jobs. So what I did was I first called up a realtor in the local market that I was thinking of investing in. And he kind of took me by the hand and showed me a bunch of properties. And he kind of told me what to look out for as well. He said, "Oh, don't buy this house. The roof looks like it's in really bad condition. I would highly recommend staying away from this. Oh, this looks like a great deal, especially if you can rent out to students and add those extra bedrooms that you're thinking of." And so he kind of actually walked me through that process. So I never really felt totally alone in this real estate investment journey. And so that's something that might help you get out the analysis paralysis stage, is realize that you're going to have a lot of people who will help you out along the journey. And it all starts off with making that first call to a realtor in the local market that you're thinking of investing in. That's how I got started, and that's what really started creating that momentum for myself. So make sure you take action on your dreams. The first thing is to call up a realtor. The second thing is maybe talk to some of your target tenants that you might be bringing in. Like for me, it was college students. So I started talking to college students and asking them, oh, where do they find housing? What type of houses do they like? And that kind of determined where I ended up buying my initial investment. And then just taking like little steps every day. Maybe you just do a home walkthrough with the realtor, and you kind of analyze that deal and ask questions to your realtor, and that kind of gets that momentum building up. And so that's reason number one that most people fail at real estate investing, is just never getting started. So make sure you stop sitting on the sidelines and take that very first step. Now, the second reason why people fail at real estate investing, believe it or not, is not picking the right strategy. I know a ton of people who got into real estate, they picked the wrong strategy, and then they ended up quitting, or they ended up not making enough cash flow and just being stuck in this position where they're not making any money. So there's a couple ways to approach this. I recommend always doing a strategy that's creative and unique. You don't want to do what everyone else does. For example, right now, everyone else seems to be doing Airbnb, and it's creating a ton of competition so that the prices that you can charge on your Airbnb rental go down significantly compared to when there was a lot less competition. Also, because there's a lot of Airbnbs, there's a increasing regulation on all the current Airbnbs. For example, Los Angeles and San Francisco, they have very strict regulations around Airbnbs that you can have. So I don't recommend doing Airbnb right now, just because it seems to be like everyone else is doing it. The second thing you might consider is traditional real estate investing. By buying a single family home and then just renting it out as a whole unit usually doesn't work anymore. And in fact, it doesn't make enough cash flow to make sense. And that's why I recommend my strategy, which is the student housing strategy, where I buy near a local college town. That's the college is a top college in the US. and I rent out by the room to students. And because I do that, I usually double or triple the rental income on that property. So typically a property that will rent out for 1,500 to 2,000 a month, I will rent out each bedroom, and I'll get 6 bedrooms in there and rent out them for $600 to $700 a month. So that could be anywhere from $3,600 to $4,200 a month for a 6 bedroom property. And by doing that, I at least double the rental income on that property. So that's how I got creative. Obviously, there's a lot of other methods out there. There's mobile home parks, there's self-storage, there's a ton of niches to kind of get into. But the most important thing is don't do traditional real estate investing and don't do what everyone else is doing. What everyone else is doing. In fact, I had a friend who kind of was peer pressured into investing into this syndication because everyone in that group was doing syndications where they raise other people's money and put it into like an apartment complex. And unfortunately, because she didn't have any control over the situation, she basically invested with the syndicator and she didn't vet the syndicator too well. She ended up losing all of her money essentially, or there's a very low chance that she will get any of that money back, unfortunately, because she chose the wrong syndicator. So don't always do what's popular or hot. Make sure you do your own due diligence to look into the strategy, and at least the strategy should make sense in your head. Like the numbers should work out. For student housing, it's very simple. You have 6 bedrooms, and each bedroom rents out for 600 or 700 a month, and you can confirm that by talking with students in the area. And so that's why I chose that strategy. It's very simple. It's not super complicated. Like the numbers are very easy to just lay out on paper. And so that's what I recommend for you is choose a strategy where you can keep it simple and lay out all the numbers so that you understand it before you even start using it. Now, the third reason that people end up failing at real estate is not budgeting enough money to start out. And usually what you have to do to budget for your first rental is to have a 20% down payment if you're not going to live in it. And if you live in it and do a house hack, you need 3 to 3.5% down payment at least. So make sure you budget for that. But also there's things like closing costs, rehab costs, and furniture costs, and potentially repair / maintenance costs. So let's go through closing costs first. Closing costs are typically 2 to 5% of the total loan amount. So let's say you have a loan for $200,000. If it's a 5% of that loan amount, it would be about $10,000 for your closing costs. Then you have furniture, which might be $3,000 to $5,000. And then you have renovations, which it just depends on what you want to do. For me, I add bedrooms. So I put up a wall and a door. And typically putting up walls and doors could cost anywhere from $1,500 to maybe $3,000 per bedroom that I put in. And if I have to convert, like, let's say a half bathroom into a full bathroom, that might cost a little bit more. That will cost, I would say, $8,000 to $20,000. $20,000 is really the high end, of course. Typically, $8,000 is what you're talking about. So make sure you budget for all of that. But if you want kind of like a general rule of thumb, what I would do is budget the 20% down payment and just budget about $15,000 for closing costs, renovations, and furniture. Now, it really depends on what type of furniture you buy and how much renovations you have to do, but that's kind of like a rule of thumb if you're buying a house that's in pretty good condition with very light renovations. Now, obviously, the reason why this is so important that you budget for everything before starting is if you don't, it could leave you in a very bad position of owing more money than you have in the bank. And that's what happened for me. I actually owed more money on the repairs on the property that I had to make than I had money in the bank. And so what I had to do was borrow money from my father and pay him back an interest rate in order to survive. What I could have done instead was put a lower down payment on that property so that I had more money for closing costs, renovations, etc. And so what I recommend for you is save up enough money for at least that 20% down plus $10,000 to $15,000 in emergency funds, just so that you are in a good position in case a major repair comes up. Now, the fourth reason why people fail at real estate investing is not spotting red flags or underestimating expenses. So typically, there are only a few items that you really have to pay attention to on a property that if they're in bad condition, you will probably want the seller to give you money to repair that item. Otherwise, it's going to cost you a lot of money yourself. And those 6 items are the roof, the foundation, the HVAC, the plumbing, the electricals, and the sewage line. So on my very first property, I had a sewage line break that cost me $9,000. I also had to put in a new HVAC, which cost me $15,000. But the cool part about this that I learned later is that you can get a sewage lateral line inspection during the home inspection phase. And the same thing with the HVAC. You can get an HVAC inspection, and you can find out if the sewage line has a break in it or if the HVAC is near the end of its life. And then you can take that information and negotiate with the seller to give you credit towards those issues. Now, one thing I highly recommend everyone do is go through the house with a general contractor or a handyman and have the contractor or handyman give you a bid and tell you how much it's going to cost you to make all those repairs on the property. And by doing this, you have a physical copy of how much it's going to cost you to repair this property. You can send that to the seller, and then the seller will go ahead, and because they have something in writing, they're like, oh, I do have to put money towards this. Because that's literally what it's going to cost according to the contractor. So you want to do this during the home inspection phase, obviously, so that you have that time to negotiate with the seller so that they can pay for those repairs. The other good thing about going through a house with a contractor or handyman is they might be able to spot things that you didn't see. Things like dry rot, mold, water stains, moisture damage. Those are sometimes hard to spot just by yourself. It's really good to have an experienced contractor to go in there because they will spot those things right away, since those usually spell a lot of trouble later. So make sure you use that tactic so that you're not overpaying for a property and that you're successfully negotiating with the seller to cover some of the repairs or give you credit towards the closing costs. That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. And if you have any questions, please leave it down in the comments below, and I'll go ahead and get back to every single one of your questions. And also, don't forget to like and subscribe and share it with your friends who are struggling with getting started in real estate investing so that I can reach more people like you. Thank you, and I'll see you on next week's video.